So good day everyone. Today I will share to you my analysis about GUNO and KOYO. So this story is an Indonesian literature, but before we go further with my analysis, let us first have the overview of the content. So first is the background of the work, followed by the author's background, then the character web, the characterization, the plot, the styles of the author, the themes, the cultural implication, and the implication of the title. First is the background of the work. So, GUNO and KOYO is a humorous Indian story about the two friends who robbed the old Haji and ended up waking everyone up in their neighborhood because of their chaotic robbing. So, GUNO and KOYO is a humorous Indian story about the two friends named GUNO and KOYO. So, next is the author's background. So, the author of GUNO and KOYO is Harold Corlander. So, who is Harold Corlander? Harold Corlander is a folklorist, novelist, and a political analyst. He was born on September 18, 1908 in Indianapolis, Indiana, USA. He was familiar because he is known by preserving the history of Native Americans as well as Asians, Indians, and countless American tribes. So his work became crucial to an understanding of the paths traveled by the world civilization. And aside from that, he also received 3 Avery Hopwood Awards, one in drama and 2 in literary criticism. He spent time in the 1930s on a farm in Romeo, Michigan, where he built a one room log cabin in the woods and spent much of his time writing The African. Next is the character web. So as what you can see here, this is the legend I created. So the black triangle is GUNO, the blue triangle is KOYO, the red triangle is the old Haji, and the violet triangle is are the villagers. Next is the characterization. So GUNO is the one who persuaded KOYO to steal in the old Haji's house. Then KOYO is the one who was with GUNO. The Haji is the owner of the old house that GUNO and KOYO robbed. The villagers are the one who are awakened by the screams of GUNO and KOYO. So they got angry to GUNO and KOYO because of their screams. Next is the plot. GUNO persuaded KOYO to go with him to rob an old Haji. They crept in the night to the old man's house and began to dig a hole under the wall and enter through it. GUNO silently gathered the valuables of the sleeping Haji and handed them neatly on the ground. So, GUNO was the one who entered the old Haji's house while KOYO remained outside and served as a lookout. And while GUNO was silently gathering the valuables of the old Haji, KOYO on the outside was looking for someone's presence so that he could easily tell GUNO that someone is coming and they could easily escape. Next is he saw the Haji's colorful robe hanging on a peg. He took it and dressed himself in it, and instead of going through the hole, he went to the door. So GUNO saw the Haji's colorful robe and decided to dress himself with it, and instead of going through the hole outside, he went to the door. So what do you think will happen? Okay, so KOYO, expecting GUNO to appear through the hole, was startled. Seeing the dignified robed figure coming out of the door, he thought it was the Haji. So KOYO was startled by the presence of the colorful robe coming out from the Haji's house. So he thought that it was the Haji, but it was actually GUNO. So because he was startled, KOYO screamed and left the file of loot where he had placed it on the ground. GUNO, at the same time, thinking the Haji was behind him, also hastily threw his new robe away and flew after KOYO. So see how stupid they are. So, because the two of them made so much noise fleeing through the village, the neighbors were awakened, and they came out with sticks and cycles to pursue them. So the villagers and the neighbors were startled and was awakened by their screams. So they came out from their houses and brought sticks and cycles to pursue them. Guno and Koyo ran across the open fields until they came panting to the edge of the river. They only have two choices. It's either to jump off the river or to get beaten up by the villagers. So what do you think will they choose? So while panting, they argued about the river being not flooded like what Gono said. But Kuyo did not believe him and said that it is flooded. So they decided to just jump to escape from the villagers. So they choose to jump off the riverbed instead of getting beaten up by the villagers. So you go first and tell me how it is, Kuyo said. So Gono held his breath and leaped from the rocky ledge. But the riverbed was dry. There was no water at all. As he lay there in great surprise, he heard Koyo shouting to him from the ledge, "How is it? How is it?" So what do you think will Gono answer? Guno was embarrassed, so he began to make swimming motion with his hands and legs as he lay on the bottom of the riverbed, and he called out, "It's fine below, don't you see me?" So Kuyo too took a deep breath and closed his eyes and leaped from the ledge. He landed next to Guno, sprawling on the ground. Gono, still waving his arms as though he were swimming, turned to Koyo and said, "You can see now that I was right. The river is not in flood." So, the villagers, seeing Gono and Koyo swimming this way in the river that had been dry for months, put down their weapons and laughed. They were laughing because of their stupidity, because of how silly they are. So next is the styles of the author. So the conflict in this Indonesian literature entitled Gono and Koyo is man versus self, and it uses flashback. So this is the exact line which shows that this Indonesian literature uses flashback. It is said that one time Gono persuaded Koyo to go with him to rob an old haji. Next is the theme. The theme of the story Gono and Koyo was that you cannot get out of any predicament by some kind of ridiculous act. It is always better to apologize to a person than try something silly to get out of doing it. And also, to admit when you have made a mistake. We should not try to cover up our mistakes in childish manners. So, I think what the author wanted to tell us is that he wanted to imply to his readers that we are born imperfect. We are imperfectly made by God, and that we have so many flaws. We've made a lot of wrong decisions in life, but that doesn't make us less human. That is only the proof that all of us all of us commits mistake, all of us could do wrong decisions in life, but it will not be avoided by doing ridiculous acts, just like what the character of the said Indonesian literature, which is entitled Gono and Koyo. So it's always better to face those consequences along with the decisions we've made in life. And now let us proceed to the cultural implications. So the only thing that I could see that the author wanted to imply to us about the cultural implication in this Indonesian literature is having a haji. The next one is the implication of the title. So the title itself tells us that this story is about Gono and Koyo. It is funny because the name Gono means helpful, and Gono is a very unhelpful man, while Koyo's name means rich. Koyo in fact never has any money at all. So, just like what Harold Corlander wanted to say, don't go swimming in a dry riverbed. So that's all. Thank you and God bless.